all their rights are being stomped upon with this canon. Because it is the new Rome, the privilege of Constantinople is to enjoy the privileges of honor after the Bishop of Rome. And this is a canon that the popes never accept. They accept the other canons, but this particular canon they never add. So this is one thing that's kind of out there. It's not doctrinal or anything. And it has simply to do with honor in terms of place and procession, let's say. And then this fourth canon with regards to Maximus the Cynic, that guy the Egyptians tried to put on the throne. So it kind of limited in time. There are two other canons. One is regarding the tome of the. So there was a teaching. There was something that they wrote. There was a book, and it's lost. The tome of the Westerners, who confess a single Godhead of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's lost. We don't know exactly what was in it. Perhaps the creed itself was taken out of that, and that's what was referred to in Chalcedon 70 years later, because nothing is said of it by councils in the meantime. No one quotes that creed, but it appears. And then let's see. There's a canon here. Oh, I think I confused this one. This was what happens, a canon against bringing accusations against a bishop. All right, I kind of conflated 4 and 6. So this is basically a canon on how accusations are to be treated. And finally, there's a canon on how to receive back into full communion, or to receive into full communion, those who have professed these various heresies. Some had to be confirmed, right, or chrismated. And others, depending upon what the heresy was, had to be baptized and go through the full catechumenate. Everything was required. Some just had to be confirmed, and others had to go through the full catechumenate. All had to formally abandon the heresies that they had. The consequences, that this was not recognized as an ecumenical council. This is kind of one of these curious ones. The East doesn't recognize it as an ecumenical council until 70 years later. And I think it was started off understood as another one of these local councils, right? But the importance of the teaching was recognized perhaps later on, and given that authority, they recognized the authority of it, and so later on it kind of posthumously receives this designation. And in the West, in the Latin Church, it is recognized by, except for that third canon regarding Constantinople, by Pope Hormisdas, who died in 523. And the Synod of Rome, it responds to that third canon and goes out of its way to say that its prominence does not come from the fact that the emperor used to live here. It comes from the founding of the church on Peter and Paul, and so forth. Okay. Questions?
What's the difference between these canons that you're talking about and say, church doctrine? You mentioned that some of them weren't.
Well, canons can be a disciplinary matter, and so if it's something over discipline, that can change from time to time and place to place. So, who has the authority to elect a bishop? Well, that's changed. Or who has the responsibility for electing a bishop? That has changed throughout church history, and there's been different disciplines in different places at different times. So there's more than one way to do it, you might say, right? But the canons specify a discipline. This is how we are going to treat the matter. And it may be that centuries later they want to treat it a slightly different way because the circumstances have changed, right? So, but it is the canons are there to provide a uniformity, the same way of approaching certain difficulties or practices with all who are in communion with the church. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so then what exactly is doctrine? Doctrine
regards revelation, right? Revelation with respect to who God is, who the church is, who Jesus Christ is, what mankind is. So that if it has to do with mankind, the human person, it can also involve moral teaching, right? So, but discipline is regard how we are going to specify that this is going to take place. If it's, let's say, moral, how it's going to be specified to take place or not take place at a particular time or place. Okay.
You mentioned on there New Rome.
Oh,
What's the difference between
Rome? In 324, 325, Emperor Constantine moved the political capital of the empire from Rome to this little town called Byzantium, which quickly ceased being a little town and became the most important city for centuries. And so Constantinople, as it was known up until last century, now Istanbul, right? They moved it there. And they referred to it as the New Rome. And for centuries, up until the fall of Constantinople in 1453, those who lived there referred to themselves as Romans. They didn't refer to themselves as Byzantines. That's kind of something
so when
from
did they go
history.
to present day Rome? Approximately.